I want us to be realistic. NWC will not be able to serve all communities in Jamaica in an economic way. So in other words, the cost of capital and the return to pay for that capital, it is not viable to do so. That's number one. Number two, our last assessment is that we're serving just about 73% of the population with water. Our intention is to move that up to 85%. We believe other interventions need to be applied to address the other 15% of the population to ensure that there is access to, water in very close proximity. I stop by saying access because access in the WHO, the UN definition means something different, but water in very close proximity, maybe a yard tap or something like that. But it is not feasible economically to try to provide water to every single household, regardless the distance that they live from a main road. We have to look at other intervention.
What are some of the initiatives that you are suggesting that we undertake to serve these areas? And can you name some of the communities that the NWC does not serve and say what you'd suggest happen with these communities?
Wow, that's a different
Can I
type
make
of
an
interview.
interjection here? I think if you look at the National Water Sector Policy, you see?
Yeah.
The National Water Sector Policy defines a utility service area or a non-utility service area. I think some of the areas that you're asking about falls under what the National Water Sector Policy called the non-utility service areas.
Right.
And these are areas that will not necessarily have piped water, but there will be some other modality that will supply them with water, whether for rainwater harvesting, from Entomb Springs, water shops, wayside tanks. There are several modalities that are available and which are set out in the National Water Sector Policy. But as I have stated at the start, we have the water sector policy, but I don't think we have any resources to implement, or no action has been taken to implement the National Water Sector Policy.
People from the various areas would often come and complain that they don't have any pipe water for 20 years, 30 years. Is it realistic for them to continue to expect this then, based on what the National Water Sector Policy proposes and where we are and where we're looking to get? Is it realistic?
So that's a question that is not necessarily straight off yes or no, because one has to understand, was it an area that was even being served by NWC in the first place? Or was it an area that was being served since, as you said, they haven't seen pipe water? Sorry, or was it an area that was being served by a parish council operation? So it's not just a simple yes or no. It's all that has to be understood in the context of who was really providing the service in the first place.
There is a question I want to go to you for, Mr. Leo Ayi. In respect of that lead on communications that you have been harping on, who should take the lead?
My feeling is that it has to be a collaborated thing. The technical, the government and academic should get together, but we need the professionals like you in the communications expert to be able to put the information out so the man on the street can understand. Because
yes, but we're at the lower level. We're at the lower level. Who should be taking the lead role? I mean, communication practitioners will disseminate a message, yes, but that message has to be coming from somewhere. Who is not doing his or her job?
Well, that's a hard one. I'll ask Basil to help me. But this is why, this is why the JN Foundation took this on, because we recognized that people weren't getting the proper information or it was above their head. And this is why, what, 3-4 years now being at it, trying to get to people for them to understand the simple things, the doable things that can be done for them to be able to buy into this matter of conservation. Because
okay, so let me interject a bit. Mr. Leo. So we recognize from media perspective, and this is probably on a side from the forum, we recognize from the media's perspective that we also do have a role to play in connecting between policy and people.
Yeah.
But that can only happen when the policy becomes active. It doesn't make sense for us every single day to be preaching something which is in a policy, which is not executable. So who is that person, or who are those groups of people who should be ensuring that this policy, this big plan, is at a stage where it can be implemented? Who is not doing his or her work?
If I were to put my finger on a single body, I would say it would be the government agent responsible in this area. Now, we really recognize it is not being done, which is why the JN Foundation is coming as a catalyst. They say, hey, this is something that is critical. It needs attention. Wake up and do something. And we're looking for any and everybody who will help to come aboard to be able to carry the message forward.
But isn't that the problem, Mr. Leoyi? Aren't your words going to the wind? Or as opposed to the air of someone?
Well, we're speaking to everybody, you know. We speak to everybody on any occasion that we can get. So we speak to people, to groups individually and collectively, and wherever it is, which I'm saying, we keep sending this message to everybody that we can help. We get help from the IDB, have been very, very supportive of what we're trying to do. The international agency has been very, very supportive, but still we need to get the message at home. Because if we don't get it to all people here, then we're not achieving our goal.
So he who hath an ear, let him hear.
Yeah, man, I really think that the ministry with responsibility for like the national water sector policy,
yes,
said so clearly the service and what is going to be done and how it's going to be done, and the establishment of certain committees who will drive the issue of education of the public, whatever medium that is used, is the person that I think needs to do something.
The ministry responsible for water established as a key, I suppose, a key component of the water sector policy, a interministerial committee, an integrated water resources committee, I think that's what it's called. It's chaired by Senator Albin Hill. And it was established earlier this year, and they have had, I think, 3 meetings. So I think a focus has to be placed at the foot of that ministry, and that committee that ought to be guiding the implementation and the execution of the water sector policy. So Cabinet has established this policy, this committee, or council, so it's a council of cabinet, right? And I suppose they need to get on with it basically.
I think that Anthony touched there, which is why I'm saying that we recognize that the message is not getting out. And this is why I was appealing to your group to help us to get them to wake up and to do something. Because if we don't do that, they will continue in their slumber until, as Mark said, until things mash up. It's too late. We're into crisis. And then that's what we're trying to avoid. Which is why we've been trying, I just said, speaking to the wind, but hoping that the wind will take the message to somebody who will hear, get up and do something.
You see, Mr. Leoyi, for me, the issue is there must be somebody who is responsible.
I agree.
Right? So you can pat that person on his shoulder, or you can jolt him, and then you can get others to jolt him. But we have to know who is responsible, who do we hold accountable, so that we can light some fire and must deal.
Right. Okay. You put it. I wasn't as blunt as that, because what we're trying to do is get somebody to help us to light the fire. And we know what is the agency that's responsible for water policy. Get to that body. Anthony has indicated who it is. Basil knows who it is. We all know. So we need to wake them up. But even when we talk to them, they say stuff, but they don't do anything.
So well, just throw some water upon them.
So
we some water.
All right, so it's the council. The name is Integrated Water Resources Management Council, right? It's chaired by Senator Albin Hill, and the secretariat is in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. The Director of Water Policy in that ministry. She coordinates the meetings and so on. I can say, and I mean, I'm just speaking from a position of being a representative on the committee, that one of the areas that have been targeted is that of building national awareness relating to water and water conservation. Nothing has yet been rolled out, but I know that that's a priority area.
What are they
One of
waiting
the
for?
immediate
Anthony?
priority areas. Yeah.
What are they waiting for, Anthony? They need a bucket of water on their head.
Well, I think it's important that we have a discussion with the secretariat. I don't know if it's appropriate to call her name here, but it's the director for water policy, Ms. Audrey Spencer. She is coordinating it. And as I said, there was a meeting of the council in September, and another meeting is scheduled for November.